everyone. Karen Glasser here, and welcome to the Author Spotlight. Whether you're here live or on replay, make sure to say hi in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. Today's show is sponsored by the Online Authors Office, a platform for inspiring writers who seek that quantum leap into marketing their work. Today, we are diving deep with best-selling author Cheryl Moy. It has always been Cheryl's dream to help young adults find their way and their truth. She really wants everyone to understand that their well being is as important as their physical health, so this too needs to be nurtured. As she says, learn to love yourself first, and then you will have the gift of joy to spread to others. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Hi,
Hi.
Karen.
How
Thank
you
you for
doing?
having me.
I am thrilled to have you on the show. You are quite the accomplished author, and we're going to be talking about the Origami Balloon today, but we're also going to talk about a couple of your other books as well. So let's just jump in. I want to talk about your journey. Becoming Mei-Rose is your debut novel. So what's the story about exactly?
Well, it's a story about a little girl growing up here, and thank you. Thank you for showing the book. I'm also happy here. Yeah, it's about a little girl who is Asian descent, grew
Uh-huh.
up in America, who have a culture, who have strong background on who she is, any Asian background, and grow up in Western culture. So she's learning how to become who she is growing up, progress of being growing up and accepting her heritage as well as westernized culture and facing a lot of discrimination, acceptance, traditional way of thinking. So
And
that's it.
this is like not just her story. This is really a much bigger story. This is what happens in our culture, I believe, today. Why was it so important to you to get this story, this message out?
I think it's very important because a lot of people, just because you're born in this country doesn't mean that you shouldn't accept who you are originally from, right? You should accept, embrace your parents as well as embracing the new ideas of where your culture is from. So there's a lot of, inner turmoil for everybody, whoever it is. And it's a good message now also because a lot of Asian, especially right now, there's a lot of, during the pandemic, it really emphasized a lot
Right.
with a lot of hatred, a lot of discrimination based on what you believe, what your culture, and all that stuff. And I think it's important right now to accept that and embrace everything. That's an important message. Just learning to, just because you're faced with a lot of obstacles doesn't mean that you shouldn't love yourself, even though people think against it. And that's the whole message. You know what I'm talking about? It's the
Right.
message to learn that
Right.
you're unique and embrace it, whatever it is.
And that is obviously such an important message. You talk about the internal conversation.
Right.
What exactly does that mean? What is that internal conversation?
I think internal conversation is when you feel insecure of who you are, especially when you love, your parents love you no matter what it is.
Mhm.
And then they phrase of discrimination or they don't want to stand out or speak out against it. Then you going like, should I speak out for who I am or who I want to believe? Or should I just shy and accept it, what other people think of me? And so that's a lot of internal conflict. And the reason I put origami balloon is because in Japan, origami means the fold of life. So each time you fold whatever you want to be, and that's the fold of the girl journey of how she wanted to embrace, who she is in each journey of her life. And in turn, I figure it's love because once you figure out the love and who you are, accept it, and everybody's shining around you. There's people against you, then you have to accept them and embrace it. That's called bravery, right? That's what it is.
Very,
Very
yeah, very
bravery.
much so. So, I mean, I have to ask, is this your story?
It's my story about what I face. It's not a story about me as a biography. A lot of people think it's like a biography of me, but no, there's a lot of people who relate to who whatever ethnicity it is. I
Mhm.
have people come up and say, this is a blessing. I learn about Asian culture,
Right.
or I learn about, I embrace it because I figure out that my culture, I'm also first generation born American, and
Mhm.
I face the same thing. So I think it's really unique because I think it's a unique story of what it is.
we're talking with Cheryl right now about her book, The Origami Balloon Becoming Mei-Rose. Go ahead and scan the code. You can go pick up the book. It will take you directly over there, but don't do it right now because I want you to stick around and watch, watch the show. I'm curious, what was the process like writing this book?
Oh my gosh, that is a really good story. I took about 5 years to write this book. And each time I said I'm going to write a book, and I never have a chance to write it. I met an amazing sponsored by online author, on offline. She's
Rashmina.
so amazing, and her team is so amazing. It helped me brought the story to fruition.
Mhm.
Okay, it took a while for me to write it, but it was an important message that I wanted to convey. And I wanted to write it as a storybook so people could relate to, and also for young adult and through ages as well, because they could relate to the book and as well as illustration to feel what the person is about. It's amazing when I have people who's in their 70s and 80s love this book. They could relate to it. So I
Right.
was impressed that I did a really good job in her team for that. That's the message actually is growing up how you are, embracing who your unique is. And especially in this time and especially during this time,
Especially
actually, I
in
just
this
have to
time.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do you get writer's block? Did you
Oh
actually, I mean,
yeah, I do get a lot of writer block.
so
So
tell
trust
me,
me, that's why
I
I have yeah, that's why I have so much.
so I always like to find out because I don't think there is an author out there that doesn't have writer's block at some point in their life. So what was the trick that you used to get past that writer's block?
I think the trick was to share my story because everybody likes storytelling. I think it was a
Mhm,
lot easier doing storytelling. So once you tell a story, then it's unique, and then you write it. Does that
mhm.
make sense? And share what it is, because everybody has stories of what it is. So that was the key part of moving forward. Trust me, it was a lot of writer blocks, but when you share a story, what happened from other people, and they share with you, and you just write it down and inundate it and stuff. So yeah.
What has been the response so far? The people reading this?
Um, the people who doesn't know about Asian culture, I did a fantastic job.
Uh-huh.
Um, the reason I said that is because they say, "Oh my God, I did not know that Asian culture not only Chinese food but Chinese bakery. I wanted to know the recipe." So I must. So I'm very impressed because most Chinese people they always think about Chinese food. And I said, "Oh, let's talk about other culture besides
Right.
Chinese food and Chinese music." So I was thinking about that. It's also helpful with other like K-pop dramas really popular right now, and thanks to them, they did a fantastic job, especially the group they call PTKS. I embrace them, embrace them for doing their multi-stream culture, and that's what I want to do too. Because here in America, people think you're just American. We are American, but we also have a lot of ethnicity, and we should embrace it. You know
Great.
what I'm saying?
A-
Even though
a-
we face a lot of discrimination, especially
absolutely.
Indian people, I don't know how to explain it better than that. Yeah,
So we mentioned in the beginning that this was your debut novel, but you
right.
also have another novel that's out. Let's talk about that first. And you're also writing a third one. My goodness, you're busy. So let's talk about the second book. What's that about?
This one is workbook is called Love Thyself.
Hmm.
So it's learning it's a contribute to the story, but it's more like a workbook. It's inner work of discovering how the story, what she had to face each life, and it does help me and help other people. So
Hmm.
if you learn to have big dreams and then you realize what you are, you go through what phrases and how you interact with people. I think the key part right now is people don't interact with other people or learning how to interact with people. You know,
Or
that's what it
talk
is.
to other people, possibly.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to say really rude. It's just once you figure out who you are, accept your uniqueness as a star, wherever you are, and then learning to embrace other people around you, that's usually is amazing. But it takes bravery
I
also
like
to do
I
that.
like what you're saying. I like what you're saying. You're saying that first you have to be able to love yourself before you can actually love anyone else. So I
Right.
think that is such an important message. I really want to know why you do this though. You're putting yourself out there. You put your face out there, you put these books out there. Why are you doing this?
I take courage to do this. I have a lot of naysayers, like, you know, no, no, no to me a lot. And I said, well, that's fine. It's just to prove me that I need to do this, right? Take bravery to do this, to go forward to do this. And also, I think it's a story to be told instead of a different way in a political platform. You know what I'm saying? To share your stories, a lot of people relate to it. Personal touch one-on-one. Once you share a story, it's able to encompass everything else. You know.
And you say that you are doing this also for the lost and those who are scared to starting over and simply have no idea where to begin. So, how does this book help guide people get that
Uh,
start?
that's a really great question. The start is you learning where you're stuck and you realize what you need to go through, even though you don't have a story. And the bravery is to know through each time people who accept you and understand it, then you should use them as a guiding light, right? And
Right.
just have them draw to you and you draw to them, and then you share an idea. It's just take one person to do that, and
Hmm.
then it just snowball into everything else. So yeah, it's an important story because I think right now people talk about politics and how to reform. Those are great ideas, but it's always one person is to understand why you need to reform. What's the idea behind it, right? To get the stuff what it is. I think that's what it is. The
What
main
do
point.
you, Cheryl, what do you hope people are going to walk away with when they read your book? I mean, immediately they walk away. What do you want them to share with other people after reading this book? Other than, of course, you need to go read this book too. What do you hope they're going to actually share? What is that message that they're going to share once they finish this book? Because it's powerful. I mean, you're talking about something that needs to be talked about. But what do you think people are going to actually say after they've read the book?
I want people to say is like aha moment for them, right?
Mhm.
Like it doesn't matter what age you are, it's a story that you need to share, right? And work with others, because this basically is working with others and then how to shine. You receive the story about the antidote. No matter what you do, you need to consist. You know how people always say you have to be consistent. Well,
Right.
that's true. You always have to be consistent, but what is it? Joy. I think that's the key part. The joy of the journey. You go up and down like a roller coaster, but what's the joy of learning each one? I think that's what my message is. You know,
Right.
everybody faced with difficulties, but the joy of finding the other side of it, right? Why you have to go through this journey.
Now, this seems like a natural for you because you're a coach. I mean, this is what you
I don't. Thank you for saying that. I
this is
don't
what
know.
you do. So, do you feel, and I can kind of guess the answer, this book is kind of an offshoot from your coaching, and the thing that you are actually helping people with this probably came a little bit out of that. How
Right,
is it, right?
right. You're right, Karen. It does came a little bit out of that, and I realized I've been doing with people anyway. So, but yeah.
So, yeah, when you coach, who do you coach? Do you coach women, men, uh, Chinese, Chinese American? Who do you coach?
So I actually do all ethnicity.
Hmm.
Again, you have to accept everybody who they are, and their
Hmm.
willingness to accept in the realm of who you are. So you always attract whoever it is. I think is unique is because I always accept people who like the lowest point in their life.
Hmm.
Shouldn't say that. The lowest point in terms of where they at. I should never say the lowest
Right.
point of their life. The lowest point of where they at, and then I give them courage.
Hmm.
I notice I do give people courage to embrace this other side. Like, what is if it's this other side? How does it look like? And once they figure that out, it's like okay, they accept it, and then the journey is process.
Right.
The journey is to go. Key part is the whole thing is courage. You know what I'm talking about? It's like me, courage to be like. People say, "Oh, sure, you do the other industry. Are you okay with people knowing your name and what you do?" I say, "Hey, is this book about courage? Then I need to have my name out there and just embrace this
And
whole
you're
ride.
stepping into your power. I mean, you are truly stepping into your particular power, which is a storyteller, as a coach, as somebody to motivate others. And again, it's all about having that courage. Now, we mentioned briefly that you have a third book that you're working on. So I'm chuckling a little bit because it took you 5 years to get the first book, and now they're just kind of rolling out, right?
I'm glad you said that. I don't know, when I matched with the OAO team, they're like, Cheryl is conditions. Once you get one book down and you got the two one, you're gonna go with breezy. And I guess it's unique because I thought it was just done, but in reality, once, like you said, once you're performing and you're out there and you just want to continue forward, right? And you could take a pause in it, but yeah, it's always good to talk about their journey. So there's always stories. It is also interesting because people mention it to me like, hey, what about story about this character who is not, you know, how is it related? So that gave me some ideas, right? How to write it, because the journey is always learning to embrace people, right?
Mhm.
Interaction with people and how it works. So yeah, so that's a good one.
So I'm assuming that in the order of how people should read, that of course they should read your signature book,
Right.
Origami Balloon. And then I'm understanding that your next book, Love Thyself, is actually more of a workbook that works alongside this book, which is phenomenal. I think that is awesome because a lot of people, myself included, when we read things, we tend to read through and not know what we're supposed to do with it afterwards, right? And it's always nice to be guided into that next step. So, in that book, I mean, are there exercises? Are there,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
there's exercises, and that was when I talked to the AOA team, they realized that's what I wanted to do.
right.
And so that was perfect because reading a book, like you said, is really great. Especially storybook is really great because it helps kids understand
Right.
and also help adult understand. But when you have the workbook, you could relate to what her journey was, and that was my goal, was to convey the message, right, of
Right.
how it is. Especially when you talk to people who's in the 70s and 80s, what they have to face,
Right.
and then you see what the journey and how they become, right, and what it is to overcome each obstacle. So that was the key part of what I did and how I did that.
Well,
Yes, it took 5 years. I mean, it's crazy, but I did.
but you
Within
know what?
1 year, I did two.
Right. And here's the thing, and I actually think that the fact that it took you as long as it did, you continued on that journey. You did not say, "Oh, forget it. I can't do this." You continued, and the message to our viewers is, don't stop. Even if the going gets rough, even if you don't know why you keep going forward, find your motivation, keep going forward because like Cheryl, it might have taken 5 years, but now she's on a roll. She is totally on a roll.
I think
I
it's
want
when you know your why, right?
to know your
And I
why,
think once you know your why,
right?
even though what it is, yeah.
we
I
want
think
we want our viewers, our listeners, to go check out your website at cheryl-moy.com. What are they going to find over there in addition to your book?
see a story about gallery,
Hmm.
how to purchase my book and stuff like that. So they talk about, I'm trying to add more people in testimony, which is really great because people, for some reason, I asked them to do testimony through Amazon. They don't write it, but they tell me in person, which is fabulous, right? I think
But
it's a blessing when, yeah, people need to know why more,
yeah.
right? Because it's all about social media. You know how it is. It's
Oh,
about and all that. But it's always blessing too. That's why I said I need to have more about it. But they could find my debate book and also my workbook. So
so we're
yeah.
encouraging people to go on, scan the code, go over to Cheryl's website, get the book, and then your action step. We are giving you a call to action after you pick up the book, after you read it, and you see how fabulous it is, and I can attest to it. It is fabulous. Then go ahead and give a recommendation, a testimony, a testimonial, either on the website or on the Amazon site or on Barnes and Noble, wherever your books are sold, because it's really helpful for authors to have their books have those testimonials. Cheryl, I can't believe we're getting towards the end here. What would you like to mention, other things to mention to our audience that you think is important on this journey?
Oh, that's a really good point. Even though you face obstacle, like right now I'm facing a little bit obstacle, I'm still going forward, you know. However it is, however the learning the journey is, I think it's great. So my third book, I can't tell people what it is because I have a lot of stuff on my mind, but it's
Mhm.
always good to figure out what it is that you want to do. And it's important to go forward. It's
Right.
great to talk about this, but what is the next step? And the next step is the third book of how to go to the next level. And each level is always, great to go forward. But it's wonderful talking to you. I did not know the time as
I
well.
am. It's
Wow.
wonderful talking with you, but I also want to mention the online author's office again, because basically you surrounded yourself with people that could help you move forward, and I think that also is the message. Whether you check out OAO, check them out, they're awesome, they're all over social media as well as their website. If you have a book in you, they're the people to go to. But more importantly, Cheryl, you knew to take action, and you knew to find the people that could surround you. I want to thank you because you are an inspiration. You are an inspiration to all of us who are on this
Thank you so
journey.
much. It took a while to find great people and share the message and to be honest, right? There's a
Right,
lot of, let's put it this way. You have to find integrity. So once you figure out who you are integrity wise, then
right.
you need to surround who they are and then you should show up. That's the key message of
Absolutely.
that.
And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being vulnerable with us. I want to thank you for sharing
Thank you
your
so much for
story.
making it easy for me. I was a little.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I want to thank our audience because you guys have a choice as to where you spend your time. You chose to spend it with Cheryl and I today. We are very grateful for that. We want you to go out, give somebody an awesome day, and we will see you next time on the Author Spotlight. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye, you guys. Thank you.